Theo Park had spent most of Saturday hidden behind a wall of pastel-coloured manga volumes, his badge ribbon reading, "Small Press Artist, Be Kind." The chatter of the Wildflower Comic-Con droned around him like cicadas, dice clacking at the tabletop booth, someone testing a lightsaber, the distant feedback of a panel microphone. Every so often, a convention-goer drifted past his table, charmed by the bubble letter logo, Sprout Stories, then murmured, "Cute." But few pulled out their wallets. Theo didn't mind. Selling 20 copies of his self-published romance manga was still a victory for a former shut-in who once practiced signing fake autographs in his bedroom. At 3:30, he noticed a swirl of excitement down the aisle. Cameras flashed, people angled phones over shoulders. Striding through the crowd came a tall cosplayer in a deerstalker hat and Inverness cape, a polished calabash pipe clenched between teeth. The man's likeness to the Sydney Paget drawings was uncanny. Even the aquiline nose looked sculpted. Con staffers waved, attendees cried, "Sherlock!" and he bowed in mock Victorian fashion before heading behind the velvet curtain that separated Artist Alley from the concrete service corridor. Theo caught a whiff of tobacco-scented stage spray as the detective vanished backstage. "Best homes this year," said Kyrie Vega from the enamel pin booth beside Theo's. "I heard he does short TikToks solving mini-mysteries." She flipped a rainbow steampunk octopus pin toward a customer and winked at Theo. "You should give him one of your books, Holmes Meets Shoujo, Viral Gold." Theo's throat locked. Approaching a minor cosplay celebrity sounded as achievable as piloting a Gundam. He busied himself sketching chibi raccoons on a freebie postcard instead. 15 minutes later, his water bottle was empty, and the line for the nearest fountain snaked past 6 stormtroopers. Emboldened by dehydration, he left Kyrie in charge of his cash box and slipped through the curtain in search of a quieter drinking fountain backstage. The service corridor smelled of dust and fryer grease. Stacked cardboard boxes labelled Plushies 18 sat beside metal drums of soda. Ahead, a freight door loomed half open, sunlight slanting across a patch of concrete. Theo nearly tripped over the deerstalker hat lying in the middle of the corridor. He bent down, heart hammering. The hat was damp, dark spots blossoming on the tweed. A pair of gloved fingers poked out from behind a column of folded pipe and drape. Theo circled the curtain and stopped breathing. Sherlock Holmes lay on his back, pipe shattered beside him. A bright red stain spread across the ivory waistcoat, and his glassy eyes stared at the industrial rafters. Theo's childhood reading flooded back. "You see, but you do not observe." He wished desperately he were someone who could observe later rather than now. He stumbled to his knees, fingers fumbling for a pulse at the cosplayer's neck. Nothing. "Help!" The cry tore from his throat, ricocheting off cement walls. "Security!" Footsteps pounded. 2 volunteers in orange shirts appeared, walkie-talkies crackling. One radioed for medical, the other urged Theo away. Within minutes, the aisle buzzed with uniformed convention security and a pair of EMTs. Attendees pressed at the velvet rope, phones aloft. Kyrie peeked through the curtain, her pin display half abandoned. Theo sat on a plastic crate, shivering despite the Texas heat. A security officer collected statements. When Theo admitted he'd found the body alone, the man's eyebrow rose. "Name, badge number, and where you were each hour since noon." Theo stammered through answers. The officer jotted notes, face unreadable behind reflective aviators. "Don't leave the convention center," he said at last. "Homicide detectives are en route." Homicide. The word felt detached, like a speech bubble hovering above someone else's panel. Theo's hands shook so badly, he nearly dropped his phone while texting his older sister. "I'm okay. Oh, found a body. Don't freak out." By 5 o'clock, the police had arrived, sealed off the corridor, and escorted several vendors, including Theo, to a makeshift briefing room normally reserved for autograph overflow. Painted murals of longhorns and bluebonnets stared placidly down at the grim gathering. Detective Andrea Serrano introduced herself. Early 40s, braids pulled tight, eyes that missed nothing. "We've confirmed the victim's identity," she said. Garrett Loomis, age 30, local content creator known online as Sherlock 2.0, cause of death. Single stab wound to the chest, time of death approximately 3:40 p.m. We recovered a prop dagger nearby, blood-covered, possibly the murder weapon. Prop dagger. Theo pictured the countless replica swords jangling from con backpacks. Serrano continued. Witnesses place Mr. Loomis arguing with someone behind Artist Alley shortly before he died. If you saw, heard, or live-streamed anything, speak up. Questions followed, but Theo's mind snagged on one detail. Garrett Loomis had vanished behind the curtain at about 3:15. Theo found him at 3:45, a 30-minute window. Somewhere in that half hour, a killer had slipped backstage, stabbed him with his own cosplay prop, and melted back into the convention sea. Theo's table money sat unattended with Kyrie. His potential sales were toast. Yet as he listened to other witnesses, a rival Sherlock cosplayer, a prop vendor who'd rented Loomis the dagger, a disgruntled TikTok collaborator, Theo felt something scritch inside his chest. The same itch that made him craft twisty manga plots about secret admirers and hidden curses. A puzzle had been dumped on the table. He couldn't walk away with pieces unsnapped. When the police released them at 7, Kyrie hustled over. "Your eyes are doing that sparkly anime thing," she whispered. "Please tell me you're not about to Nancy Drew this. I just need to understand what happened." Theo's voice came out steadier than he felt. "For my own sanity." Kyrie sighed, unfastened a magnifying glass pin from her lanyard, and pressed it into his hand. "Fine, but if you get arrested, tag my shop in the viral thread." They returned to their booths just as the exhibit hall closed for the night. Con staff pointed attendees toward evening panels elsewhere in the center. Theo pretended to pack up, but once the last straggler left, he ducked under the caution tape secured across the curtain. The corridor was dim, lit only by emergency fluorescents. Chalk outlines and numbered evidence tents dotted the floor like gruesome conswag. Rule 1 in detective manga, he reminded himself. Start with what others overlook. He crouched near a tent labelled 3, the deerstalker hat. A smear of crimson streaked its brim, but something else caught his gaze. Stuck to the lining was a translucent petal, pale blue with a dark vein. Lupine? Bluebonnet? He wasn't sure. Wildflower Comic Con took place inside downtown's convention center asphalt jungle. Where would a petal come from? Tent 5 marked the prop dagger, bagged and gone. But shards of curved amber plastic still littered the ground. The pipe. Under one shard was a scrap of cardstock, printed with pastel chibi art. Theo's heart dipped. It was the backside of one of his Sprout Stories postcards, recognizable by the copyright line. A customer must have dropped it. Except the postcard corner was creased in a shape that formed a tiny envelope, something decades of manga folding had taught Theo to do. He gingerly unfolded the crease. Ink inside formed a hastily drawn star and the number 8. A riddle. A note. Theo tucked the paper into his sketchbook, wiping suddenly sweaty palms on his jeans. Before he could examine the scene further, a voice boomed behind him. "Step away from the crime scene, sir." Detective Serrano strode forward, anger flashing. Theo raised trembling hands. I'm sorry. The tape was loose and—" "It wasn't," she said, lips tight. "But curiosity often is." She escorted him to the staff door. "Go home. Let professionals handle it." Theo shuffled back to Artist Alley, cheeks burning. Kyrie was labelling bins. "Didn't last long," she observed. "I found something." He showed her the petal and folded postcard. "Weird, right?" Kyrie squinted. "Number 8. Could be part of the scavenger hunt." She grabbed a program guide. "Look, Wildflower Mystery Quest. Solve 8 riddles around the con to win a VIP pass." Theo scanned the page. Clue number 7 had been released at 3 Xiaoyao p.m., a cipher hidden in a holographic cosplay badge. Clue number 8, the final, was scheduled to drop at 4, but had been delayed according to a tweeted apology. Unexpected technical difficulties. Garrett Loomis, renowned Sherlock cosplayer, backstage at 3:30, stabbed by 3:40. Perhaps he'd possessed the final clue before anyone else. Theo's pulse thudded. If the killer wanted to steal winning glory, or whatever prize awaited, they might silence the competition. He and Kyrie agreed to regroup early Sunday, the convention's last day. Theo took the train home, brain whirring. At his apartment, he pulled reference books on wildflowers from a shelf used for tone screens. The blue petal resembled the eponymous wildflower of the con's name, a bluebonnet. Fields of them bloomed outside the city, March through May. But here, in September, inside air-conditioned walls. Unless someone had brought a bouquet as part of cosplay. Sherlock stories loved flowers. Remember the Naval Treaty? A clue hidden in pressed petals. Maybe the killer's costume involved a floral accessory. Theo slept fitfully. Dreams of ink panels bleeding crimson woke him before dawn. By 7:30 he was back in line for exhibitor entrance, coffee gripped like a lifeline. The hall reopened to artists at 8. Public entry was 10, giving Theo a 2-hour head start. Kyrie arrived in rainbow pajamas, hair still in curlers. "Rise, O sleuth." They cross-examined neighbouring vendors. A sticker artist recalled seeing Garrett argue with a carmine crimson something, red trench coat, bouquet of blue flowers, very extra. A memory pinged. Carmine Crimson was a lesser-known comics detective who solved crimes using synesthesia. Niche but beloved among mystery fans. Theo spotted the cosplayer at 9, pacing near a merch booth. The costume featured a scarlet coat lined with cobalt silk. A cluster of artificial bluebonnets sprouted from the breast pocket. He approached, Kyrie filming on phone standby. "Excuse me," Theo said. "I'm Theo, small press." Carmine Crimson turned, revealing freckled cheeks and sharp hazel eyes. "Lovely display you have. Need something?" "I heard you spoke with Garrett Loomis yesterday." The eyes narrowed. "Who's asking?" "Maybe someone who can help you," Theo ventured. "I found this near the body." He showed the postcard, its star and number 8. Carmine exhaled. "Garrett and I teamed up for the mystery quest. We cracked the first 7 riddles together. Yesterday he texted, 'Meet backstage for the finale, come solo.' When I arrived, he waved me off, said he'd figured it out without me. He carried a rolled poster tube and that dagger. We argued. I left angry." Carmine swallowed. 15 minutes later, screaming. "Did he mention what clue 8 was?" "Only that it led beyond the alleys where Art sleeps, meaning I assume backstage or loading dock." Carmine's gaze flicked to the bluebonnets. These were part of my Carmen connection, synesthetic detective red-blue motif. Garrett hated them, said I looked like a florist. A florist? Theo's stomach dropped. Mind if I borrow one? He extracted a silk bluebonnet. The stem had a thin metal wire. When Carmine departed for a panel, Theo twisted the wire free. The tip was sharply filed, sharp enough to pierce a chest if thrust hard, especially through a cosplay waistcoat, and the victim's wound had been single point. The police assumed the prop dagger. What if that dagger was staged? He shared the theory with Kyrie. She whistled low. So we have a possible murder weapon hidden in plain sight among artificial flowers. Theo eyed the con schedule. At noon, the Mystery Quest award ceremony would be held on the main stage. If the killer stole Clue 8 and completed the hunt, they might appear to claim the prize. And flowers were often handed to winners. They attended the ceremony, blending into a crowd of puzzle enthusiasts clutching answer sheets. Detective Serrano lurked near the sound booth, clearly same idea. The MC announced, "Due to yesterday's tragedy, we honor Mr. Loomis with a moment of silence." Heads bowed. Theo surveyed outfits. Only one person carried bluebonnets, Carmine crimson. But Carmine's hands now lacked the bouquet. The stems protruded from a messenger bag instead. When the contest began, teams lined up to submit answers. Carmine stepped forward second, placing a folder on the table. The judge flipped through pages, murmured approval, and rang a bell. "Perfect score. Carmine Crimson, please remain for verification." Theo noted Carmine's shaking shoulders. Nerves or guilt? He sidled closer as Detective Serrano converged from the wings. Just then, a volunteer wearing a cardboard mascot head tripped, scattering swag onto the floor. Among stickers and lanyards glinted something metallic. Kyrie gasped. Theo recognized a wire-stemmed bluebonnet, petals flecked with reddish-brown. The mascot tried to scoop it up, but Serrano barked, "Stop!" She yanked off the oversized head, revealing not a volunteer, but the prop vendor who'd rented Loomis the dagger, Marissa Clune, neon green pixie cut now damp with sweat. The room hushed as Serrano retrieved the flower, bagged it, and read Marissa her rights. Theo watched Carmine's expression morph from confusion to shocked comprehension. Backstage, Serrano filled in the blanks for Theo, Kyrie, and Carmine. Marissa Clune ran cutting-edge props, specializing in resin weapons. Garrett Loomis owed her nearly $1,000 in rental fees and had promised a revenue share from sponsored videos. Instead, he spent the money commissioning new cosplay pieces. Yesterday, Marissa confronted him, saw the wire flowers in Carmine's pocket, plucked one as makeshift weapon, stabbed him during their argument, wiped it clean on his waistcoat, then staged the dagger to mislead investigators. She planned to finish the mystery quest using Garrett's notes, win the VIP pass, and claim it had been their joint project, sympathy marketing for her brand. What tripped her up was arrogance, Serrano added. She wore the paper bracelet given only to Clue finalists. Serrano turned to Theo, and a shy manga artist who won't stay behind his table. Theo flushed. "I really didn't mean to tamper with evidence." "You didn't," Serrano said. "You observed and you told us. Sherlock would approve." Carmine stepped forward, offering Theo the magnifying glass pin Kyrie had loaned him earlier. "Detectives need badges." He accepted, cheeks pink. Kyrie elbowed him. "See? Viral thread guaranteed." By evening, artist Ali buzzed not with cicadas, but with whispers. "Did you hear? The Sprout Stories guy solved a murder." Sales of Theo's books skyrocketed. 20 copies became 200. Kyrie sold out of magnifying glass pins. Theo signed autographs for the first time without rehearsing in his bedroom. As the hall lights dimmed for closing, Detective Serrano stopped by. She handed him a Wildflower Comic-Con bookmark with a blue bonnet pressed inside. Souvenir for the civilian consultant. Don't let fame go to your head. He tucked the flower into his sketchbook beside the folded postcard. The case felt closed, yet a new panel opened in his mind. Shy seller becomes sleuth. Perhaps his next manga would start at a convention, with a body behind Artist Alley and a cosplayer clad as the great detective. Real life, rewritten in ink. Outside, the September sunset painted the sky sherbet green and lavender, colours straight from a fantasy palette. Theo shouldered his crate of unsold volumes, fewer now, and smiled at Kyrie. Ready to go home? Lead the way, Detective Park, she said, falling into step. Just promise me your next adventure involves fewer stab wounds and more kawaii merch. Theo laughed, the sound carrying across the parking lot like the turning of a fresh page.